always our bit of advice for anyone. But again, that comes down to anything in the creative world. And we know, as we use that analogy a while ago about our friend, the barrier that most people have is that they're afraid of being judged and they're afraid of stepping out. And we know what it's like. The first time we put out a podcast, we were nervous as hell.
Yeah.
But that's the hard part. So if you've got a creative outlet, the thing you must do is feed it.
Yeah, you have to feed it. And if it doesn't, or if you don't, I know that it needs to come. We were talking about this the other night, actually. I said to Dee, I don't know what I would be doing.
Yeah.
Like, what would I be doing if we weren't doing this? Like, I know we've got our other jobs that we do until Dawson goes complete full time. But I was like, I wouldn't be feeding my creative outlet. What would I be doing?
Yeah.
And it was a bit of like a fearful, scared moment. I was like, oh my God, like, thank goodness that we found this and did this and gave it a crack, because there's probably so many other people out there like our mate that there's that creative beast that needs to be fed, and they're too scared of what Joe Blow or Mum or someone on Instagram is going to say, and they might get 3 likes and they're embarrassed because they've got 3 likes. Like, you just have to ignore that and almost think like you're the biggest podcast in the world and just upload it.
100%.
And just go, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks, because I'm the biggest, I'm the best.
And it's having the confidence. I think it's all about people doubting themselves and allowing other people to come in and their little stories in their heads to say, I'm not good enough because someone else is doing it better than I am.
Yeah.
But you've got to start somewhere. It's a bit like the first time I was on radio, if I'd had a bucket, I would have vomited in.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm serious. It was scary as hell. And I made myself do it. And, I did my training and I did all that sort of stuff. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. I'm here. I've prepared and I've done everything right. And I started to play music and I'm thinking, music's not for me. I don't want to play music on radio. Everybody else does that. I want to do something different.
Partridge.
Yeah. And I was thinking, what would I play? And so anyway, I had that show prepared and I was there, and I'd chosen a really early hour of the morning so nobody could listen to me.
It's interesting though.
That's how scared I was. And then I thought, and I got down the track and I started having conversations and doing all that sort of stuff. And here I am 7 years down the track.
And you got a bit of prime time, a bit of 2 to 4 action. That's
Yeah. And so, and I've always had this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, always. And it's like, hey, give me a studio, give me some people to have a conversation with, and I'll just have the conversation.
It's awesome, Faye. It's really good.
And people realise, you have conversations and it doesn't matter who it is. One way or the other, I learn from people and they may learn something from me. I don't know. But it's a two-way street. The conversation works both ways.
100%.
And people learn to see their brilliance. And I think everybody has a brilliance, but they've just got to let it shine on the outside. Yeah. And some people are just really fearful of that, fear of the judging, fear of doubting themselves, not worthy enough. Oh, I'd like to do it, but really, just do it. As the Nike ad says, just do it, have a go. If you're not good at it, change it and do something else. It was like when I was a lot younger, I did fencing, with
wow.
The sword. Always wanted to have a go at it. Thought, I did a whole term, got up there and had a little battle and thought, not doing this anymore. But I wanted to experience it.
You did it.
I did it because I was curious.
Yeah.
And doing this, I'm curious about people and who they are and where they come from and what they do and why you do what you do.
Yeah.
And it's about building that rapport and building that relationship with people. And that's what you guys are doing. You're building that rapport and building that relationship with lots and lots of people. So you need to keep doing that and building the audience that you are creating, more and more people.
Do you want to maybe explain to the audience of the types of people we probably haven't covered off who we've had on the show, the types of conversations we've had?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to pinpoint exactly where our niche sits because we've interviewed
Doesn't matter.
everyone and everybody across any field. So I guess using that word curious, that's our approach to anyone that comes on our show. It's someone who we are curious about and someone who we go, gosh, I'd love to know more about that industry or that person. And our questioning tends to not, we don't have a list of questions like you. It's a conversation. And what happens is through that conversation, curiosity just comes about because you're having a chat. It's not because we're following a structured interview like someone on Channel 9 would be or whatever. But in terms
Boring as hell.
Yeah.
Well,
Or I
people
could
aren't,
say
and then people don't listen. You know,
boring as BS.
yeah.
predictable. And, so the people we've had on, I mean, gosh, you could have, a professional sports athlete. So for us, we've had, a few people in the AFL circle. So James Hurd, Matthew Richardson, Glenn Boss, 3-time Melbourne Cup winning jockey, Archie Thompson, the soccer player. And then we've had someone like, whether it's a stock trader or an investor like Louise Bedford or
We've had people in entertainment, so we've like a lot of reality TV. So we had the winner of The Voice come in. We've had Love Island. We've had Bachelor.
No,
I thought we might have.
Or Married at First Sight.
Not yet.
I can't stand any of those shows. But you know what? They all have a story.
They do, and you get to hear what happens behind the scenes. And those little things, and we had one of our first big interviews, Faye. We had Greg Page, the original Yellow Wiggle, and for us,
Yes.
that was our first name, right? And that was a long time ago now. But when we got it, for us, we're like, okay, finally we've got somebody that we don't necessarily have to explain who it is and whatever.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we go into the interview, and back then we did have notes in front of us, and it was more just to keep a bit of structure in case we got stuck.
Yeah. And
in his case, we wanted to, make sure we reference everything correctly, albums and videos, and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
and his foundation.
So we got chatting. We talked a lot about the Wiggles, but then after about 20 or 30 minutes, he just went down this path about spirituality, which we did not expect at all. The next thing we're talking about manifestation and law of attraction and all these really, like, we just did not expect it to go in that direction. We thought we'd be talking music and, his loves outside of his musical loves and tastes outside of just the Wiggles. And it just went down this totally different track. And I think for us on that day, we turned around and were like, okay, that was great that we didn't just say, oh, good. All right. By the way, let's go to now to 2000. You brought out this album and this is what happened. We let it flow. And from there, that day, we're like, all right, no more notes.
Never make assumptions about anyone, because when you start a conversation with somebody, you never know where it's going to take you.
Exactly.
And there could be something that they say, as you just said then, Daniel, that it will take you on a totally different path. Something that you never realized about that person or about that person that never spoke about and they wanted to share it. And so you give them an opportunity to share something, not just because they're famous, people see people in a different perspective. And when you have that conversation, it throws that other side of the perspective on them.
Definitely.
And so therefore they have a different respect. There's a different respect for that person, because there are a lot of people out there that make the assumption that they are just this, and they're not. They're that, but there's another whole person behind that person.
Absolutely.
Who is absolutely amazing. And you look at that and and that's why I don't prepare questions. I had an economist on a month ago, and I wanted her on because I've been trying for 3 years to get her on. And she said, no, Faye, not coming. She says, you never give up, do you? And I say, no, I don't. I'm like a dog with a bone. If I want someone, I'll go for it.
Yeah.
And they can say no, they can say no, they can say no. Until one time, I just wear them down and they've got to say yes.
Get some drinks into it.
No,
That's our technique.
no. Excuse me. But it's all about having that conversation and being real.
Yeah.
And you give that person who's seen as a famous actor an opportunity to speak about something that they're passionate about. And you draw that out of them so that people can see that other side of them. And there's that aha moment there where people want to know more.
100%.
So therefore, what you can do is you can have that conversation, you can finish that, you can go back down the track and say, we want to know more about this. Would you like to come on again and talk about this? And this is what it's all about. It's not about having a real structure. It's about the freedom of speech. It's about that freedom of conversation. It's about getting into the gut and the heart and really drawing out who that person is and respecting them.
Definitely.
And having an appreciation, and they will have an appreciation for you. They will talk about you and say, you must have a conversation with these people. You know, and that's what it's all about. It's not about the serious side. You can go and have your fun and your laughter and all that sort of stuff. But you might do a favour for someone who might have a mental health issue that they're too scared to talk about. And they will bring that up and they will talk about it. So it will give them a freedom that they haven't had for a long time, and they can go down the path of healing.
Definitely.
So there's all those sorts of things that you guys can do, particularly with athletes who are coming out now and saying they have mental health issues, you know, depression, you know, concussion is a big thing now that's coming out, and it's in the news. Probably leave that alone for a while because there's a lot of legal stuff going on there. But it's all about the expectations of the spectators expecting something of this person to perform. But what about the person behind that?
That's right. And like Josh mentioned earlier, we had James Hurd, the privilege of speaking to James Hurd on our show. And
he went through a lot of hell.
He went through a lot. And the thing was, for us, again, like for someone like him who, again, might be apprehensive to jump on with, again, we had to introduce ourselves to him and say, this is who we are, this is what we do. And he came into the studio and we you know, he said, so what do you want to talk about? And I'm almost certain he thought we were going to say, let's talk about the drug scandal. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. Because that's typically what everyone asks you. And we just said, mate, we just want to have fun with you. And you just saw his body language totally just change like that, relax. And then we said, let's reminisce on some stories you haven't told for a while or memories you haven't had for a while that you want to elaborate on. And we had just a great chat with him, and it was free. And we said, look, we're not going to go down structured questions. There might have a few we really want to ask you, but we're not going to grill you and try. And we said to him, we're not trying to get a news headline, because when you interview someone like that, often they get picked up. When we've had a few of our podcasts get picked up by newspapers, and pretty much every single time they've never been positive.
No.
So we said to him, that's not what we're here to do. We're not trying to use your name to get our faces out there. We just want to chat with you. And he really respected that, didn't
he? Yeah.
And I think if you're honest up front with them like that, then you will get a respect and they will refer you. Or if someone says, you know, such and such wants to have a conversation with me, they want to be on their podcast, they'll say, yeah, they're good blokes.
Exactly.
Let's go and have a conversation.
Definitely.
It's not about dragging out the dregs of, you know, what they did wrong. It's about the person behind all that. Who are they? Who are they really? Where do they come from? Why did they become an athlete, a famous athlete? How much blood and guts did they put into where they are today? You know, that's the stories that people want to hear. They don't want to hear all that other stuff.
No.
Because that's not who they are.
And unfortunately, our industry is drowned sometimes people that do go for headlines.
Absolutely.
A lot of
it sucks.
And unfortunately, what we've learned is that we've got people that are doing similar things to us, and they get somebody on their show, and they disrespect them. They go back on their word, and they're going for an article, and then suddenly for us, for you, for us, for everybody that wants them again, suddenly they just want to stay away from it all now. And you're like, that is so frustrating, because it's not what we're about. And we always ask. It's a question we ask before every interview. Is there anything you do not want to talk about? What's out of bounds? And most of the time they say nothing, but sometimes they say, look, I just can't talk about this. And we're like, cool. And that's it. End of conversation there. We don't go in.
And I always say, and I didn't say it to you guys because I thought it's just open.
Well, we're very open book, yeah.
But I always say, if I ask you a question or if something comes up that you don't want to talk about, just say I don't want to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
As simple as that. And we won't go there. It's like when I had the economist on, I said, I promise that I won't, because I knew it from this holiday.
Okay.
And I said, I'm not going to talk about you growing up and all that sort of stuff. I want to talk about the economy. I want to talk about what you know about what's going on in the world, and gender equity and all this sort of stuff. So we had this fantastic conversation. Sort of kind of went over my head.
I want to tune into that one. I'll be listening to that later. That sounds very interesting.
Because, you've got to respect people.
Yeah.
And I made a promise, and when I make a promise, I will not break it. But, asking those questions and bringing out the person that's behind all the stuff, I can't say what I want to say, on your show, bring out that real person. Let that shine to people, because that's the person that you want them to see, not the person that they've been portrayed as.
That's right.
The real person. So, okay, we're coming to the end of the show. So what do you two want to say to anyone out there that wants to start a podcast? One tip each.
Well, just in life in general, and if you want to start some type of creative outlet, and just in life in general, just don't play it safe. Right? Don't play it safe. Just try and think bigger than just, what's in front of you and what's next to you. Try and think beyond what's in your small little bubble. Yeah.
I love that. Probably two things very quickly. One, just start, as we touched on earlier. The second one, consistency. Once you say to an audience, or you say to yourself that I'm going to do it, if you commit to a weekly thing, make sure it goes out on a weekly basis. If you say a month, same thing, but just be consistent.
Be consistent. Hear that, guys? Be consistent. If you want to start something, these guys have started something and they're going to build an empire. So watch this space with these two, Dos and D.
Dos and D, follow us.